Hello my friends, it's Gabriel with the Last Huntsman channel here. I also got Momo the battle poodle running around out here. And today I'm going to be doing a review on the Tops Prather War Bowie. Yeah, that's a whole lot of bad mamma jamma right there for a knife. Let's check this knife out. So here I have the Tops Prather War Bowie. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this is not the factory sheath. I had the sheath made for me by AZ Welke. So give him, go check him out. He's one of the only few that I've found that actually makes a sheath for the Tops Prather War Bowie. Because, well, the factory sheath for this knife is absolute garbage. I don't even have it, I don't think, anymore. It's just your typical Tops nylon type of sheath. Momo's getting into something. Let me ask you real quick. Do you guys like to see Momo, the battle poodle, with me? Huh? He likes to come out in the woods. I just don't always film with him. But, so we'll go into some of the specs. 7-inch blade. It has a 1/4 inch thick stock on it of 1095 steel. However, while a lot of 10 or a 1/4 inch thick knives are kind of very heavy and bulky, this one actually feels very nimble in hand. It's kind of like the Cold Steel Recon Scout. I kind of compare it to another knife here. All right, so here's the Tops Prather War Bowie, designed by Jeff Prather, by the way. Next to the Becker BK7. So that just kind of gives you a good overall size. They're almost identical in length. Just the Tops has a little bit taller, wider blade. It's obviously a 1/4 inch thick, but honestly in hand, they both feel pretty similar. I will say the Becker is a little bit more nimble, while the Prather definitely has some blade weight to it. But let's get testing out this knife. All right, so I'm going to fell this small little sapling here with the Tops Prather War Bowie. Just see how it performs on some basic chopping here. Got it down. I was getting a little bit of rotation in my hand, which is odd because it's such a kind of overall squared handle. It doesn't feel bad in hand, but when I was getting some heavy strikes with it, it just was wanting to rotate a little bit. All right, so another chopping test I'm going to do with the Prather War Bowie. Get back, Mama. I'm going to do some delimbing here. Blade profile is actually, seems like it's pretty decent on this knife. Not 100% sure if I'm sold on the handle. All right, so another task I'm going to do with the Tops Prather War Bowie is I'm going to just do some batoning with that 1/4 inch thick knife on a high saber grind. It's just asking to be batoned, and it definitely pops through the wood, and that's some seasoned cedar there, which ain't the hardest wood, but when it's seasoned like that, it actually can be hard sometimes. We'll get just a little bit taller piece here. Let me move the camera up just a little more. This one has a few knots on it. But the Tops Prather War Bowie batons really well. All right, so I'm going to try to do some feathers with the Tops Prather war Bowie here. Now, this is not really much of a fine whittling knife, I guess you can say. However, I can make it work. So this is not going to be your bushcraft, like little fiddlestick type of knife for sure. But if you're using it for like a basic survival type of situation, it can do the job if need be. Something else to take note on is the Tops Prather war Bowie does not have a sharp spine, so it's not going to be able to strike any sparks or anything to make a fire. So with that being said, make sure to always have a couple means to strike a ferro rod on you or in your pack for situations like this. Pop a little piece off using the Tops Prather war Bowie here. So when chopping with the Tops Prather war Bowie, because it has such a long clip point on it, it kind of little strange to chop with, just because most knives like the Becker BK7, the best chopping point is kind of about here, while on the Prather war Bowie it's a little farther back. About here is the heaviest hitting chopping point, just because there's such a aggressive clip on it. It definitely changes the balance a little bit on this knife as far as like a chopping tool. All right, so the Prather war Bowie is obviously a kind of tactical survival knife. That's what it's kind of meant to be. That's definitely what it's marketed as. It does have a really deep guard on there. Your hand is not going to go forward on that at all. I'm going to just do some basic stabbing and a little bit of tip testing here. So, Elmo, get back, buddy. All right. Just an old, rotted, half-seasoned piece of wood here. Let's sticks in pretty good. It has a good stab to it. And that tip is still holding up pretty well. I'm just going to do some basic carving with the Tops Prather war Bowie. Just kind of give you a good feel for the ergonomics and such. Now, it is a very square handle, as you guys can clearly see, and it does have some, I think Tops calls it the Rocky Mountain tread, or it's just sculpted handles. I actually like the sculpted handles. I know that's kind of a hit and miss for some people. Me personally, I like it. For doing this, the handles don't feel too bad. It's not the most ergonomic, but generally with a combat knife, you don't want too rounded of a handle, or it kind of can have some issues as far as like indexing and such. And it is surprisingly slicey for the size of knife it is. Alright, so like I've said throughout this video, this knife is kind of marketed as like a tactical fighting knife. Jeff Prather actually runs kind of a knife fighting school, if I understand right. But I'm going to just see if this knife can kind of handle what it's meant to do here. And no, I'm not like the be all know all expert. I have, you know, enough knowledge to understand what's good and what's not. Let's try it out. So, did some quick stabs. No way in hell my hand's going forward. That guard, it's really aggressive there. It kind of actually, you know, kind of bites in a little bit, but that's definitely better than your hand slipping forward. And it's surprisingly fast and nimble in hand. I was afraid that it may rotate and mess up my indexing, when kind of like I was having issues with when chopping. But when using it for fighting, especially with kind of more of a Filipino type of grip, it's actually very awesome. Now it does have an extended pommel. You know what that means, right? The good old attitude readjustment. Oh yeah, that thing has some pretty decent attitude readjustment there. So would this make a great fighting knife? Yeah, I think Jeff Prather knows obviously what he's doing with this design, and it definitely does this role pretty well. Well, my friends, I'm going to wrap up the review on the Tops Prather War Bowie. So kind of just a quick little summary here. Overall, I like the knife. It's definitely not really the best like bushcrafting knife, but you know, if you're getting a Prather War Bowie, it's not a fiddlestick type of knife. This is definitely a combat knife, and so ergonomically, if you're just going to sit there and, you know, whittle with it for a long time, probably not the best. But that coffin-shaped handle works really good for a combat knife, even when just swinging and chopping in full speed. That, you know, it's not going to slip forward and it's not going to slip backwards, which that's what you want for, you know, a basic combat knife ergonomics. Now, I will say, you know, this is a big chunk and hunk of steel, but it actually is more finesse than what you would think. The sheath is absolute garbage right out of the box. Like, Tops really needs to up their sheath game, especially, you know, with some competitive options out there these days. However, if this is just something that really appeals to you, AZ Welke makes sheaths. I think he makes a taco and pancake sheath for it. I opted for a taco, and then I just put an SE belt clip on here, and it works very well like that, and it's a nice clean package. So with all that being said, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless, and carry